Egypt's ancient mystery has at last been solved, and the revelation is nothing less than staggering. The colossal granite sarcophagi, improbably carved with a craftsmanship no human is thought to have enjoyed during that time, have been confounding scientists for millennia. Buried deep inside the Serapeum, these giant monoliths appear to leech ancient secrets from a lost civilization. Now that new finds are unscrambling their possible purpose, wild speculation flares and international wonder mounts. Did they create these structures using powers beyond our knowledge? Come with us as we dive headfirst into the heart-stopping enigma of ancient Egypt. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Spark Science, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Saqqara's granite giants, or the Serapeum boxes, are still among the most baffling artifacts of ancient Egypt. Each requires notice not just for its monumental scope but for sheer inexplicable mastery in its conception. Underneath the sands of Saqqara is a massive labyrinth cut into solid rock, an underground necropolis extending almost a fifth of a mile. Along these quiet corridors lie 24 gigantic granite containers, cut out of a single piece of stone and smoothed to a sheen, their sides so precise they vary by a fraction of less than a millimeter. A few of these mammoth blocks came from quarries near Aswan, over 500 miles away, pulled across harsh country. They are each around 70 to 100 tons in weight, but in some way or another, they not only got transported but also placed into narrow underground tunnels that look smaller than the boxes. This indicates they must have been set in first, well ahead of the time that the tunnels were completely cut through, evinces planning and vision far greater than accorded to the ancient Egyptians, who allegedly toiled with nothing more advanced than copper chisels, bronze implements, and brute force. The boxes themselves appear nigh sterilized in design, black granite walls standing more than 11 feet tall, interiors squared with unnerving precision, corners creating flawless 90-degree turns. The geometry is so exact that even with computer-aided machine drills tipped with diamonds, engineers confess that recreating such perfection today would be challenging. Here they are, however, deep beneath Saqqara, testaments to a craftsmanship that is out of place in their purported time. When French archaeologist Auguste Ferdinand Mariette initially discovered them in 1850, it wasn't self-evident. It started as a faint line of half-buried sphinxes reaching out into the desert. Along this quiet path, Mariette stumbled upon a shaft descending into darkness. Unlike the pyramids, which stood prominently under the sun with inscriptions, these chambers had no royal signatures, no ceremonial splendor, only silence, sealed doors, and eerie absence. In the Serapeum, the mystery went even deeper. Archaeologists first described the boxes as sarcophagi for the divine Apis bowls, living symbols of the god Ptah. But that doesn't hold when pitted against evidence. The sheer labor involved in quarrying, moving, and carving such megaliths must have been enormously out of proportion for burying even the most sanctified beasts. More bizarre, when the lids were opened, almost all of the boxes had nothing inside. No bulls, no sacrifice, no ornament, just silence. Whatever remains were discovered were later aged and revealed to have been deposited centuries after the boxes had been constructed, as if subsequent hands had attempted to add meaning to something which they did not fully comprehend. Some of the rooms even indicate abandonment, massive containers left unfinished, corners chipped or unworked, one gigantic container jammed brutally as if stuck in mid-move. The effect is not so much of a studiously finished work as of something abruptly abandoned, with huge monuments standing unfinished and inexplicable. Mariette even himself commented on the creepy atmosphere, speaking of the stillness as oppressive, the air thick as if stone itself weighed in upon it. Contemporary tourists relive that same creepy feeling. It is not just silent, it is unnatural, as though the tunnels are themselves keeping something secret that humanity was never supposed to find. And yet the paradoxes only intensify as we explore deeper. Conventional archaeology struggles to account for the Serapeum. The established chronology of the boxes is based not on engineering but on crude hieroglyphs etched into a few specimens. Egyptologists date them to about 3000 BC on the basis of these inscriptions, but the reasoning falls apart when scrutinized. The hieroglyphs are coarse, nearly sloppy, utterly incompatible with the perfect polish of the stone. The rich, mirror-like sheen of the boxes testifies to unmatched skill, and the shallow symbols are like scrawled graffiti. Might these inscriptions have been affixed long after the fact, perhaps by a people seeking to appropriate something they did not design or comprehend? The workmanship of the boxes, with tolerances in thousandths of an inch, is light years removed from the trembling hand that cut those rough symbols. The enigma gets more interesting when one considers the source of the stone. Granite from some of it had traveled 500 miles down the Nile from Aswan, but others had traveled from Egypt's eastern desert, almost 800 miles away, over mountains and desolate country with no river paths. Transporting blocks up to 200 tons over such country without the help of machinery cannot be believed. Even picturing men pulling them on sledges defies imagination. And even if shipped by water, how were such enormous stones loaded, stabilized, and pulled across without sinking boats? Then, after being placed underground, they were somehow dropped down into narrow rooms and positioned with unbelievable accuracy. This involved foresight, planning, and implementation that appear completely outside the capabilities of the day. Within the Serapeum, the evidence is more confounding. A single box is left abandoned, stuck in a tunnel, no sign of the sledges that were allegedly used to transport it. Even if there were hundreds of men, there could not have been room in the tight passages to move them around. There are other boxes that are left unfinished, lids discarded, granite slabs scattered about. Others were even cut inside the tunnels themselves, where the working conditions were stifling, air filled with dust, vision narrowed to blackness. But here, under these impossible circumstances, allegedly with copper chisels and stone mallets, the craftsman produced mirror-polished finish and perfect geometry on a par with today's machine precision. The paradox is breathtaking. Modern granite work, on the other hand, makes use of dynamite, diamond-cut saws, hydraulic drill, crane, and heavy transport. Single blocks this large are still dealt with today uneconomically and shunned by most firms. To recreate a Serapeum box today would involve quarrying a 200-ton monolithic block, hauling it on specialized trailers, hollowing it out with high-tech drills, polishing it with high-tech machinery, and installing it in underground tunnels with gantry systems and steel supports. Even so, modern engineers confess that they would never dream of trying to carve such a building out of one block. It would be much more sensible to construct it out of 6 slabs. And yet, in the Serapeum, we have indivisible monoliths, flawlessly polished thousands of years ago with techniques now unknown. The perfection is astonishing. Their walls are consistently thick, their interiors shine with mirror-like surfaces, their edges meet with perfect right angles. Even now, in factory conditions under control, to carve granite that precisely would take months of work by groups of experts. The workmanship is far more than can be seen for coffins of animals. Why put such great effort and perfection into things buried below the ground, unseen by any human eyeball? Even pharaohs themselves were not buried in such a manner. There are some researchers that propose the boxes might be built for something more than burial, maybe tools of energy, resonance, or storage. Granite is not just tough but is also acoustically potent. Strike it, and it rings, transmitting vibrations through its crystal matrix. Tests confirm that the Serapeum boxes emit deep, resonant sounds when struck, as if purpose-built to catch sound. If resonance was their function, then their perfect geometry was no ornament, only a need. Contemporary experiments confirm that the sound in the Serapeum tunnels forms standing waves, patterns that engage the boxes themselves. Could these chambers have been constructed as ancient sound machines, or even as part of some lost technology? The more that we learn, the more mysterious it gets. Were the Serapeum boxes secret vaults, energy vessels, or remnants of a lost system of knowledge? Whatever they were for, the fact is undeniable: they were not constructed to impress tourists, or merely to keep bulls. They were constructed with purpose, intention, and knowledge that continues to elude modern explanation. Standing before these monolith giants, gleaming to perfection and silent in their underground halls, questions far more weighty than granite burden us. Who constructed them? How did they accomplish these impossible works? And above all, why?